What if the key to lasting happiness isn't found in the things you achieve, the possessions you own, or the approval you seek, but in mastering your own mind? Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words, written over 2,000 years ago, still hold profound truth today. But how do we actually take control of our minds in a world filled with distractions, challenges, and constant demand? The answer lies in cultivating self-discipline, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy and the foundation of inner peace. In this video, we'll explore how self-discipline isn't about rigid rules or deprivation, but about building the mental resilience to face life's ups and downs with clarity and purpose. We'll dive into practical Stoic principles like cognitive control, emotional resilience, and the power of presence tools that can help you transform not just your habits, but your entire outlook on life. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by external pressures or struggled to stay focused on what truly matters, this is your invitation to discover how Stoic wisdom can guide you toward a calmer, more empowered way of living. Let's begin. The Stoics had a unique way of understanding self-discipline, one that goes far beyond the modern idea of simply resisting temptation or sticking to a schedule. For them, self-discipline was about something deeper, aligning your actions with virtue, the highest good in Stoic philosophy. It wasn't about punishing yourself or denying pleasure for its own sake. Instead, it was about mastering your desires and emotions so that you could live in harmony with reason and nature. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it this way: "No man is free who is not master of himself." In other words, true freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want, but from being in control of what you want. Think about it this way. In our modern world, we're constantly bombarded with distractions, social media notifications, endless streams of content, and the pressure to always be on. It's easy to lose focus, to let external demands dictate our actions and emotions. But Stoic self-discipline is about reclaiming that control. It's about choosing where to direct your attention, even when the world around you is pulling you in 100 different directions. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a matter of willpower, it was a matter of living a meaningful life. They believed that every decision, every action should be guided by virtue, by qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Self-discipline, then, becomes the bridge between what you know is right and what you actually do. It's about ensuring that your actions reflect your values even when it's difficult. So, where do you struggle with self-control? Maybe it's reaching for your phone when you know you should be focusing on a task, or giving in to procrastination when you have a goal to achieve. The Stoics would encourage you to see these moments not as failures, but as opportunities to practice self-mastery. Every time you resist a distraction or pause before reacting impulsively, you're strengthening your ability to live in alignment with your highest principles. And that, according to the Stoics, is where true freedom begins. Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between what we can and cannot change. This simple yet profound idea, known as the Dichotomy of Control, is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and a key to cultivating self-discipline. The Stoics believed that much of our suffering comes from trying to control things that are inherently outside our power, like other people's opinions, the weather, or even the past. By focusing our energy only on what we can influence, our thoughts, actions, and responses, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and frustration. Seneca captured this perfectly when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, we waste so much mental energy worrying about things that either haven't happened or are completely beyond our control. Let's take criticism as an example. Imagine someone says something negative about you. It's natural to feel hurt, defensive, or even angry. but here's the question: can you control what they said? No. Can you control how you respond? Absolutely. The Stoic approach would be to pause, reflect, and ask yourself, is this feedback useful? Does it align with my values? Or is it simply noise? If it's noise, let it go. If it's useful, use it to grow. The key is to shift your focus from what's out of your hands to what's within your power, your mindset, your actions, and your growth. This principle isn't just about reducing anxiety, it's also about building discipline. When you stop wasting energy on things you can't control, you create more space for what truly matters. Think about it. How much time do you spend worrying about outcomes you can't influence? Maybe it's obsessing over a promotion you didn't get, or stressing about a friend's decision that you can't change. The Stoics would remind you that these are not areas where your energy is best spent. Instead, they'd encourage you to focus on what you can do, like improving your skills, nurturing your relationships, or simply showing up as your best self. What's one area in your life where you've been trying to control the uncontrollable? Maybe it's a situation at work, a relationship, or even your own expectations of yourself. Take a moment to reflect. What would happen if you let go of what you can't change and redirected that energy toward what you can? This shift in focus isn't just practical, it's liberating. It allows you to move through life with greater clarity, purpose, and ultimately self-discipline. By embracing the dichotomy of control, you're not ignoring life's challenges. Instead, you're choosing to meet them with a mindset rooted in wisdom and resilience. This is how Stoic philosophy transforms self-discipline from a struggle into a source of strength, one decision, one moment at a time. How often do your emotions dictate your actions? It's a question worth reflecting on, because in moments of frustration, anger, or even excitement, it's easy to let emotions take the wheel. But the Stoics offer a powerful alternative: cognitive detachment. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about creating a mental space between your emotions and your actions so that you can respond with clarity and reason rather than react impulsively. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the way you think shapes your experience of the world. By practicing cognitive detachment, you can ensure that your thoughts, and therefore your actions, are aligned with your highest principles, not just your immediate feelings. Let's say you're in the middle of a heated argument. Emotions are running high, and every word feels like it carries the weight of the world. In that moment, it's tempting to lash out, to defend yourself, or to say something you might regret later. But what if, instead of reacting instantly, you paused? What if you took a step back, observed your emotions without being consumed by them, and asked yourself, what's the most rational, constructive way to handle this? This is cognitive detachment in action. It doesn't mean you stop caring or become indifferent. It means you choose to respond from a place of wisdom rather than letting your emotions dictate your behavior. The Stoics believed that emotions themselves aren't the problem, it's how we engage with them. When you attach too strongly to your feelings, you risk losing perspective. Cognitive detachment helps you regain that perspective. It's like stepping out of a storm and watching it from a distance. You can still see the rain and hear the thunder, but you're no longer soaked to the bone. This mental shift allows you to make decisions that serve your long-term goals, rather than being driven by short-term impulses. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your project in front of others. Your first reaction might be defensiveness or embarrassment, but with cognitive detachment, you can observe that reaction without letting it define your response. You might notice the sting of criticism, but instead of reacting in anger, you choose to listen, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. This approach not only preserves your peace of mind, but also demonstrates strength and professionalism. It's a subtle but powerful way to take control of your internal world. even when external circumstances feel chaotic. So, how can you practice cognitive detachment in your own life? Start by noticing when emotions arise. Pause and ask yourself, is this emotion helping me make a better decision, or is it clouding my judgment? If it's the latter, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you don't have to act on every feeling. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, giving you the clarity to navigate challenges with grace and purpose. Cognitive detachment isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control how you feel, you can always choose how you respond. And that choice, according to the Stoics, is where true power lies. Stoicism teaches us that the present is all we truly have. The past is behind us, the future is uncertain, and the only moment we can actively shape is the one we're in right now. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a practical tool for cultivating self-discipline. When we're fully present, we're better equipped to make intentional choices, resist distractions, and act in alignment with our values. As Epictetus wisely put it, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. In other words, focus on what you can do now and let go of what's beyond your control. Living in the present moment might sound simple, but in a world filled with constant noise and endless to-do lists, it's anything but easy. How often do you find yourself physically in one place but mentally somewhere else? Maybe you're at your desk working on a project, but your mind is already racing ahead to the next task or replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. This mental scattering not only drains your energy but also undermines your ability to stay disciplined. When you're not fully present, it's much harder to resist the pull of procrastination or the weight of anxiety. Consider this. Imagine you're sitting down to write an important report. Instead of diving in, you check your phone, scroll through emails, or let your mind wander to everything else you need to accomplish. Before you know it, an hour has passed and you've made little progress. Now, picture the opposite scenario. You sit down, take a deep breath, and commit fully to the task at hand. You silence your phone, block out distractions, and pour your energy into the work in front of you. Not only do you finish faster, but you also feel a sense of accomplishment and clarity. This is the power of presence. It transforms the way you approach challenges, big and small. The Stoics understood that presence isn't just about productivity, it's about peace. When you're fully engaged in the present moment, you're less likely to be overwhelmed by regrets about the past or worries about the future. You're able to see things as they are, not as you fear they might be. This clarity reduces anxiety and creates the mental space you need to act with purpose and discipline. Think about it. How much of your stress comes from dwelling on things that haven't even happened yet? By bringing your focus back to the present, you reclaim your power to choose how you respond to life's challenges. So, how can you practice presence in your daily life? Start small. The next time you're working on a task, notice when your mind starts to wander. Gently guide it back to what you're doing without judgment. If you're having a conversation, really listen. Don't just wait for your turn to speak. Even mundane activities like washing dishes or walking to your car can become opportunities to practice presence. The more you cultivate this habit, the more natural it becomes and the stronger your self-discipline grows. Presence isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Some days you'll find it easier to stay focused than others, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep coming back to the present moment again and again. Each time you do, you're building the mental resilience to live with intention, to act with clarity, and to embrace the only moment you truly have right now. History has a way of testing even the strongest among us. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, didn't just write about resilience, he lived it. As Emperor of Rome, he faced wars, political intrigue, and even a devastating plague that swept through the empire. Yet, amid these immense challenges, he remained steadfast, using Stoic principles to guide his actions and maintain his composure. In his personal writings, later published as meditations, he reflected, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This idea that obstacles are not just barriers but opportunities lies at the heart of Stoic resilience. It's not about avoiding hardship, it's about using it to grow stronger. Take a moment to think about the challenges you've faced in your own life. Maybe it's a job loss, a failed relationship, or a health issue that turned your world upside down. In those moments, it's natural to feel defeated, to wonder why life seems so unfair. But the Stoics would offer a different perspective. They believed that adversity is not something to be feared or resented. It's a teacher, a chance to develop the kind of resilience that can transform you from the inside out. As Seneca put it, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Just as physical exercise builds muscle, facing challenges with discipline and courage builds emotional and mental strength. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a principle that applies just as much today. Consider someone who loses their job unexpectedly. At first, it might feel like a crushing blow, a sign that they've failed. But with a Stoic mindset, they might begin to see it differently. Instead of dwelling on what's been lost, they could focus on what's been gained, the opportunity to reassess their career path, to learn new skills, or to pursue a passion they'd put on hold. The setback becomes a stepping stone, a catalyst for growth rather than a source of despair. This reframing doesn't erase the difficulty, but it shifts the focus from what's happening to you to what you can do with it. So, how can you build this kind of resilience in your own life? Start by changing how you view challenges. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger or wiser? It's not about denying your emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to see the potential for growth, even in the midst of struggle. Every time you face a difficulty with this mindset, you're not just enduring it, you're using it to become more resilient, more capable, and more aligned with your values. Resilience, in the Stoic sense, isn't about bouncing back quickly or pretending you're invincible. It's about responding to adversity with intention and discipline, knowing that each challenge is an opportunity to practice virtue, whether that's patience, courage, or wisdom. The next time you find yourself facing a tough situation, pause and ask, how can I turn this obstacle into an advantage? Because, as the Stoics remind us, the path to growth often begins where the road gets rough. What does it mean to live a virtuous life? For the Stoics, virtue wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was the essence of a meaningful, disciplined existence. They identified 4 core virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These weren't abstract concepts but practical guides for how to live with intention and integrity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." In other words, virtue isn't something you theorize about, it's something you practice moment by moment in the choices you make every day. And it's through these choices that self-discipline takes root and grows. Let's start with wisdom, the ability to see things as they truly are and act accordingly. Wisdom helps us discern what's within our control and what's not, guiding our decisions with clarity rather than being swayed by emotions or external pressures. When you act with wisdom, you're less likely to be distracted by fleeting desires or societal expectations. Instead, you focus on what aligns with your deepest values, creating a foundation for disciplined living. Courage, the second virtue, isn't just about facing physical danger. It's about confronting discomfort, fear, and uncertainty. It's the courage to say no to distractions, to stand by your principles even when it's inconvenient, and to take responsibility for your actions. Think about it. How often do you avoid difficult conversations or shy away from challenges because they feel uncomfortable? Courage pushes you to meet those moments head-on, strengthening your resolve and deepening your discipline. Justice, the third virtue, is about fairness and respect, not just for others, but for yourself. It's about treating people with kindness, honoring your commitments, and contributing to the well-being of the world around you. When you act with justice, you're less likely to cut corners or take the easy way out. Instead, you strive to do what's right, even when it requires extra effort or sacrifice. This commitment to fairness reinforces self-discipline by aligning your actions with a higher purpose. Finally, temperance, the virtue of moderation and self-control. Temperance helps you resist excess, whether it's indulging in unhealthy habits, overspending, or wasting time on trivial pursuits. It's about finding balance and knowing when to say enough. When you practice temperance, you create the mental and emotional space needed to focus on what truly matters, building a life of intention rather than impulse. So, how do these virtues connect to self-discipline? Imagine you're faced with a choice: to tell a small lie that would make your life easier in the short term, or to be honest and face the consequences. The virtuous path, guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, would lead you to choose honesty, even if it's harder. This alignment between your actions and your values is the essence of Stoic self-discipline. It's not about rigid rules or harsh self-denial. It's about living in harmony with what's right. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you align more closely with these virtues? Maybe it's having the courage to speak up in a difficult situation, or practicing temperance by limiting distractions when you're trying to focus. Every time you choose to act with wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance, you're not just exercising self-discipline, you're building a life of integrity, one decision at a time. And as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, that's what it truly means to be good. The Stoics had a surprising yet profoundly effective tool for cultivating resilience and gratitude: negative visualization. At first glance, it might seem counterintuitive. Why would anyone willingly imagine the worst that could happen? But the Stoics believed that by confronting our fears head-on, we strip them of their power. As Seneca once said, "He who is brave is also prepared for misfortune." This practice isn't about dwelling on negativity, it's about building mental strength and perspective. By visualizing potential challenges, we prepare ourselves to face them with calm and clarity rather than being caught off guard. Think of it this way: when you imagine a worst-case scenario, you're not inviting it to happen, you're rehearsing your response. Let's say you're worried about losing your job. Instead of letting that fear linger in the back of your mind, you take a moment to visualize it fully. What steps would you take? How would you adapt? What resources or skills could you rely on? By mentally walking through the situation, you transform an abstract fear into a manageable reality. This exercise doesn't just reduce anxiety, it also builds a sense of readiness and discipline. You're no longer at the mercy of your fears. You've already faced them in your mind and come out stronger. Negative visualization also has another powerful effect. It fosters gratitude. When you imagine losing something you value, whether it's your health, your relationships, or even your possessions, you gain a deeper appreciation for what you have right now. It's a reminder that nothing in life is permanent, and that alone can shift your perspective. Suddenly, the small irritations of daily life, like a long commute or a minor inconvenience, seem less significant. You begin to focus on what truly matters, and that clarity strengthens your ability to stay disciplined and aligned with your values. Consider this example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, feeling frustrated and impatient. Now picture the opposite scenario. You're stuck in traffic, but you've just imagined losing the ability to drive altogether due to an injury. Suddenly, the traffic doesn't seem so bad. In fact, you might even feel grateful for the ability to drive, for the car you have, and for the destination you're heading toward. This shift in mindset is at the heart of negative visualization. It's not about pessimism, it's about gaining a clearer, more balanced perspective on life. So how can you start practicing this exercise? Begin with something small. Take a moment each day to reflect on what you value most: your health, your relationships, your career, and imagine, just for a moment, what life would be like without it. Notice how it changes your perspective. Do you feel more grounded, more appreciative, more prepared to face challenges? Over time, this practice becomes a powerful tool for building resilience and discipline, helping you navigate life's uncertainties with greater ease and gratitude. The beauty of negative visualization lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require any special skills or resources, just a willingness to confront your fears and appreciate what you have. By practicing this Stoic exercise, you're not just preparing for adversity, you're cultivating a mindset of resilience, gratitude, and discipline that can transform the way you experience life. And as Seneca reminds us, the more prepared we are for misfortune, the braver we become in the face of it. Are your desires serving you, or are they controlling you? It's a question worth asking, because the things we want, whether it's a new car, a promotion, or even the approval of others, can easily become chains that bind us. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that true freedom doesn't come from fulfilling every desire, but from mastering the desires themselves. As Epictetus famously said, freedom is secured not by the fulfilling of one's desires, but by the removal of desire. This might sound counterintuitive at first. After all, isn't desire what drives us to achieve, to grow, to create? Stoicism doesn't suggest we abandon all ambition. Instead, it invites us to examine our desires and align them with what is truly valuable: our character, our principles, and our inner peace. Take a moment to think about the things you want most in life. Are they rooted in external validation, fleeting pleasures, or the pursuit of status? The Stoics would argue that these kinds of desires often lead to dissatisfaction because they depend on circumstances outside our control. What happens when you don't get that promotion, or when the thrill of a new purchase fades? You're left chasing the next thing, stuck in a cycle of wanting and never truly being content. Stoicism offers a way out of this cycle by encouraging us to focus on what we can control: our own thoughts, actions, and values. Consider the example of materialism. In a world that constantly tells us we need more money, more gadgets, more stuff, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that happiness comes from external possessions. But the Stoics would remind us that true fulfillment comes from within. When you reduce your attachment to material things, you're not depriving yourself, you're freeing yourself. You're no longer beholden to the whims of consumer culture or the pressure to keep up with others. Instead, you're able to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. So, how can you start aligning your desires with what's truly valuable? Begin by reflecting on your current wants. Ask yourself, does this desire align with my values? Will fulfilling it bring me lasting peace or just a temporary high? If the answer is the latter, it might be time to reevaluate. This doesn't mean you have to give up all your goals or aspirations. It means being intentional about what you pursue, ensuring that your desires serve your long-term well-being rather than controlling your happiness. Imagine a life where your desires no longer dictate your actions, where you're free to choose what truly matters to you. What would that look like? Maybe it's spending less time scrolling through social media and more time connecting with loved ones. Maybe it's pursuing a passion project not for the recognition, but for the joy it brings you. By mastering your desires, you're not limiting yourself, you're expanding your capacity for inner freedom. And as Epictetus reminds us, that's where true liberation begins. Resistance to reality only breeds suffering. It's a simple truth, but one that's often hard to embrace. Think about it. How much of your energy is spent fighting against things you can't change? Whether it's a missed opportunity, a disappointing outcome, or even just a rainy day when you had plans to be outside, resisting what's already happened only amplifies frustration and drains your emotional resources. The Stoics, however, offer a different approach: acceptance, not as a passive surrender, but as a powerful tool for maintaining inner peace and discipline. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully when he said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." At its core, acceptance is about seeing reality clearly without the distortion of wishful thinking or denial. It's about acknowledging what's happened, whether it's a failed project, a broken relationship, or an unexpected setback, and choosing to move forward without being weighed down by regret or bitterness. This doesn't mean you have to like the situation or pretend it doesn't hurt. It means you stop fighting against what you can't change and instead focus your energy on what you can do. And here's the surprising part: when you stop resisting, you often find that you have more strength, clarity, and discipline to face the challenges ahead. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you've worked for months on a project at work, pouring your heart into it, only to have it fail. Your first reaction might be frustration, disappointment, or even anger. You might replay the situation in your mind, thinking, "If only I'd done this differently," or "Why did this have to happen?" But here's the question: does resisting the outcome change it? No, what it does do is keep you stuck in a cycle of emotional turmoil, making it harder to move forward. Now, picture an alternative. Instead of resisting, you pause and say to yourself, "This happened. It's not what I wanted, but I can't change it. What can I learn from it? How can I grow?" This shift in mindset doesn't erase the disappointment, but it does free you from the emotional weight of regret. It allows you to approach the situation with curiosity and resilience, rather than frustration and defeat. And that's where discipline comes in. When you accept reality, you're better able to focus on constructive actions, like refining your skills, seeking feedback, or starting a new project rather than being consumed by what's already behind you. The beauty of acceptance is that it's not about giving up, it's about choosing where to direct your energy. By letting go of what you can't control, you create space for what you can: your thoughts, your actions, and your growth. This is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom, and it's just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. In a world that often feels unpredictable and chaotic, acceptance becomes a source of stability and strength. It's the foundation for building a life that's not dictated by external circumstances, but guided by inner clarity and purpose. So, where in your life could you practice acceptance? Maybe it's a situation at work, a personal challenge, or even a global event that feels overwhelming. Take a moment to reflect. What would happen if you stopped resisting and started accepting? How might it change the way you approach the problem, or even the way you feel about it? Because at the end of the day, acceptance isn't just about making peace with reality. It's about reclaiming your power to live with intention, discipline, and grace. Every action you take, whether big or small, says something about who you are and what you value. The Stoics believed that our actions are like mirrors, reflecting our inner character to the world. So here's a question worth asking yourself. Are your choices and behaviors truly aligned with your values, or are they just reactions to the world around you? Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic teachers, put it this way: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, clarity about who you want to be must come before action. Without that clarity, it's easy to drift, to let external pressures or fleeting emotions dictate your behavior. But when you act with purpose, every decision becomes an opportunity to live in alignment with your highest principles. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you're passionate about environmental sustainability. You might feel strongly about reducing waste, conserving resources, and protecting the planet. But how often do your actions reflect those values? Do you find yourself making small, intentional choices, like carrying a reusable water bottle, recycling diligently, or supporting eco-friendly businesses? Or do you let convenience or habit override your principles? The Stoics would argue that even the smallest actions matter because they're building blocks of character. Each time you choose to act in alignment with your values, you're reinforcing your commitment to them, strengthening your self-discipline in the process. Now, let's take this a step further. Think about a larger, more meaningful action, like volunteering for a cause you care about. Maybe it's mentoring a young person, helping at a food bank, or advocating for social justice. When you give your time and energy to something bigger than yourself, you're not just making a difference in the world, you're also shaping your own character. You're practicing virtues like generosity, compassion, and responsibility. And here's the thing, these actions don't have to be grand or dramatic to be impactful. Even showing up consistently, doing the quiet, unglamorous work, can be a profound expression of who you are and what you stand for. But let's be honest, living this way isn't always easy. There are days when it feels simpler to take the path of least resistance, to let external pressures or distractions guide your choices. That's where the discipline of action comes in. It's about making deliberate, intentional decisions, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It's about asking yourself, does this action reflect the person I want to be? If the answer is no, it might be time to pause and reconsider. So, what's one area of your life where you could act with more purpose? Maybe it's in your relationships where you could show more patience or kindness. Maybe it's in your career where you could take on a project that aligns with your values even if it's challenging. Or maybe it's in your daily habits where you could make small changes that add up over time. The key is to start where you are with what you have and to act with intention. Because, as the Stoics remind us, the person you become is shaped not by your thoughts or intentions alone, but by the actions you take every single day. Each choice is a step toward the person you want to be, so make it count. Self-reflection is the mirror of the soul, a tool that allows us to see ourselves clearly, free from the distortions of ego or external judgment. For the Stoics, this wasn't just an occasional exercise, it was a daily ritual, a way to take stock of their actions, thoughts, and progress. Seneca, one of the most eloquent voices of Stoicism, advised, assess your day before you sleep. This simple yet profound practice is about more than just reviewing what happened. It's about aligning your actions with your values, learning from your mistakes, and celebrating your growth. It's a habit that builds self-awareness, sharpens discipline, and keeps you grounded in what truly matters. Imagine ending your day not with mindless scrolling through your phone, but with a few quiet moments of reflection. What did you do well today? Where did you fall short? Were your choices in harmony with your principles, or did you let distractions or impulses steer you off course? These questions are at the heart of Stoic self-reflection. They're not meant to make you feel guilty or self-critical. They're designed to help you learn and grow. By taking the time to honestly assess your day, you create a feedback loop that strengthens your ability to live intentionally. One practical way to practice this is through journaling. At the end of each day, take a notebook and write down 3 things: what you did well, what you could have done better, and one way you'll improve tomorrow. This doesn't have to be lengthy or complicated, just a few sentences to help you process your experiences. For example, maybe you handled a difficult conversation with patience, but you procrastinated on an important task. By acknowledging both the win and the struggle, you're not just reflecting, you're actively shaping your future actions. Over time, this practice becomes a powerful tool for self-discipline. helping you stay aligned with your values even when life gets chaotic. But self-reflection isn't just about identifying mistakes, it's also about recognizing progress. Sometimes we're so focused on what we haven't achieved that we forget to celebrate how far we've come. The Stoics understood the importance of this balance. By reflecting on both your successes and your challenges, you cultivate a mindset of growth rather than perfection. You begin to see every day as an opportunity to practice virtue, to strengthen your character, and to move closer to the person you want to be. So, how can you start your own reflection practice? Begin by setting aside just 5 minutes at the end of your day. Find a quiet space free from distractions and ask yourself the questions Seneca posed. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? How can I improve tomorrow? You might be surprised at how much clarity and insight even a short reflection can bring. And if journaling feels daunting, start with just one question like, what's one thing I learned today? The key is consistency, not perfection. Self-reflection is more than a habit, it's a way of life. It's about turning inward, not to judge or criticize, but to understand and grow. By making this practice a regular part of your routine, you're not just building self-discipline, you're creating a deeper connection with yourself and the values that guide you. And in a world that often pulls us in 1,000 directions, that connection is where true strength and peace begin. What habits shape your daily life? It's a question worth asking because the Stoics believed that our habits are the building blocks of our character. They understood that who we become isn't determined by grand, sweeping gestures, but by the small, repeated actions we take every single day. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the thoughts we dwell on, the choices we make, and the routines we follow, these are the things that shape who we are over time. Habits, then, aren't just about efficiency or productivity. They're about cultivating the kind of person you want to be. Think about it this way: every habit is a vote for the kind of life you want to live. When you choose to wake up early and start your day with intention, you're voting for discipline and clarity. When you take a moment to pause before reacting in anger, you're voting for patience and self-control. These small choices might seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they add up. They become the threads that weave the fabric of your character. The Stoics knew this well. They saw habits not as burdens, but as opportunities, chances to align your actions with your values, one step at a time. Let's take a morning routine as an example. Imagine you've decided to start your day with 20 minutes of meditation or journaling. At first, it might feel like a struggle. Your mind wanders, you're tempted to hit snooze, and it's easy to convince yourself that skipping just one day won't hurt. But here's the thing: every time you show up, even when it's hard, you're strengthening your self-discipline. You're training your mind to focus, to resist the pull of distraction, and to prioritize what matters most. Over time, this small habit becomes a source of strength, a touchstone that grounds you and sets the tone for the rest of your day. The Stoics didn't just talk about habits, they lived them. They understood that discipline isn't something you achieve overnight. It's something you cultivate through consistent practice. Take the habit of reflection, for instance. Many Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius made it a point to review their day before going to sleep. They asked themselves questions like, did I act with integrity today? Did I stay true to my values? This simple practice wasn't about self-criticism, it was about growth. By reflecting on their actions, they could learn from their mistakes, celebrate their progress, and recommit to living with purpose. So, what habits are currently shaping your life? Are they helping you grow, or are they holding you back? Take a moment to reflect on your daily routines. Maybe it's the way you start your morning, how you handle stress, or even the way you interact with others. Each of these habits is a reflection of your character in progress. The good news is you don't have to overhaul your life all at once. Start small. Choose one habit, just one that aligns with who you want to be, and commit to it consistently. Over time, you'll find that these small, intentional actions add up to something far greater, a life of discipline, purpose, and inner peace. Habits are the quiet architects of our lives. They shape our days, our decisions, and ultimately our destiny. The Stoics remind us that by focusing on the small, consistent actions we can control, we build the foundation for a life of virtue and resilience. So, what's one habit you can start today to move closer to the person you aspire to be? Because as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and it's your habits that paint the canvas. Words have the power to build or destroy. They can uplift, inspire, and connect, or they can wound, divide, and create lasting harm. The Stoics understood this deeply, which is why they placed such a strong emphasis on the discipline of speech. For them, how we communicate wasn't just a matter of etiquette, it was a reflection of our inner character. As Epictetus famously said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple yet profound wisdom reminds us that thoughtful communication begins not with talking, but with listening. It's about choosing our words carefully, ensuring they align with our values, and understanding the impact they have on others. Disciplined speech in the Stoic sense isn't about staying silent or avoiding conflict at all costs. It's about speaking with intention, honesty, and respect even when the conversation is difficult. Think about it. How often do we react impulsively in conversations, saying things we later regret? Maybe it's a sharp comment in the heat of an argument, or a careless remark that unintentionally hurts someone's feelings. The Stoics would encourage us to pause before we speak, to ask ourselves, is this necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? These questions act as a filter, helping us communicate in a way that reflects our highest principles rather than our fleeting emotions. Take gossip, for example. It's easy to fall into the trap of talking about others, especially when it feels like harmless chatter. But gossip often stems from insecurity or a desire to feel superior, and it rarely serves a constructive purpose. The Stoics would challenge us to rise above this. Instead of engaging in idle talk, we can choose to focus on uplifting conversations, those that build trust, foster understanding, and encourage growth. This shift not only strengthens our relationships but also deepens our sense of integrity. After all, how we speak about others says as much about us as it does about them. But disciplined speech isn't just about what we say, it's also about how we listen. Active listening, the kind that truly seeks to understand rather than simply respond, is a cornerstone of thoughtful communication. When we listen with empathy and an open mind, we create space for meaningful connection. We show others that their thoughts and feelings matter, which in turn fosters mutual respect and trust. This kind of listening requires patience and humility, qualities that the Stoics revered as essential to a virtuous life. So, how can you practice the discipline of speech in your own life? Start by paying attention to your conversations. Notice when you're tempted to speak impulsively or engage in gossip. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what's the most constructive way to contribute to this conversation? Over time, this practice becomes a habit, helping you communicate with greater clarity and care. And remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you choose to speak with intention, you're not just refining your words, you're strengthening your character. The Stoics believed that our words are a mirror of our soul. They reflect who we are, what we value, and how we see the world. By practicing the discipline of speech, we're not just improving our communication, we're cultivating a deeper sense of self-awareness and integrity. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation, take a moment to listen, really listen before you speak. because as the Stoics remind us, true wisdom often lies not in what we say, but in how well we understand. What are you grateful for today? It's a simple question, but one that can completely shift your perspective. In a world that often feels like it's moving too fast, where we're constantly chasing the next big thing, gratitude is a powerful antidote to dissatisfaction. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw gratitude not as a fleeting emotion, but as a disciplined practice, a way of focusing on what we have rather than what we lack. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it this way: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, true wealth isn't measured by what we own, but by our ability to appreciate what's already in our lives. Think about it. How often do we overlook the small, everyday blessings because we're so focused on what's missing? Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on a crisp morning, the laughter of a loved one, or even the simple comfort of a hot cup of coffee. These moments are easy to take for granted, but they're also the building blocks of a contented life. The Stoics believed that by deliberately turning our attention to what we have, we can break free from the cycle of endless wanting and find peace in the present moment. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, feeling frustrated and impatient. Instead of dwelling on the delay, what if you use that time to reflect on what's going well in your life? Maybe you're grateful for your reliable car, the podcast you're listening to, or even the fact that you have a destination to drive to. This shift in focus doesn't just make the experience more bearable, it transforms it. Suddenly, what felt like an inconvenience becomes an opportunity to practice gratitude. Over time, this habit of noticing and appreciating the good in your life can lead to a profound sense of contentment. But gratitude isn't just about feeling good in the moment, it's also a tool for building resilience. When life gets tough, and it inevitably does, gratitude helps us find the silver linings. It reminds us that even in difficult times, there are still things to be thankful for. Maybe it's the support of a friend, the lessons learned from a challenge, or simply the strength to keep going. By cultivating gratitude, we're not denying the reality of hardship. We're choosing to see the bigger picture, one that includes both the struggles and the blessings. So, how can you start your own gratitude practice? Begin small. Each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing, just genuine. Maybe it's the taste of your favorite meal, the comfort of your bed, or a kind word from a stranger. Over time, you might find that this simple exercise shifts your mindset, helping you see abundance where you once saw lack. And as Seneca reminds us, that shift is where true richness lies. Gratitude is more than a feeling, it's a way of life. It's about choosing to focus on what's good, even when the world feels heavy. By making this practice a regular part of your routine, you're not just cultivating contentment, you're building a foundation of resilience, joy, and inner peace. So take a moment today to ask yourself, what are you grateful for? The answer might just change the way you see everything. Time is the one thing we can never get back. No matter how much wealth, talent, or influence we have, we can't create more of it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw time not just as a resource, but as the ultimate gift, one that's often squandered without realizing its true value. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, put it bluntly: "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." His words are a wake-up call, reminding us that the problem isn't the brevity of life, but how we choose to use the time we're given. Think about it. How often do we let hours slip away, lost to distractions or tasks that don't truly matter? Maybe it's scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows out of habit, or filling our days with busy work that leaves us feeling empty. The Stoics would argue that this isn't just a waste of time, it's a betrayal of our potential. For them, Disciplined time management wasn't about squeezing every second for productivity. It was about aligning our days with what's meaningful. It's about ensuring that how we spend our time reflects who we are and what we value most. Let's take an example. Imagine you've set aside an hour to work on a personal project, something that excites you and aligns with your long-term goals. But then a notification pops up on your phone, and before you know it, you've spent 40 minutes scrolling through trivial updates. The Stoic response to this isn't self-criticism, it's self-awareness. They'd encourage you to ask, does this distraction serve me? Does it bring me closer to the person I want to be? By pausing to reflect, you create the space to choose differently, to redirect your time toward what truly matters. But what does it mean to spend time meaningfully? For the Stoics, it wasn't about filling every moment with grand achievements or constant activity. It was about prioritizing what aligns with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It could be as simple as spending quality time with loved ones, learning something new, or even taking a quiet walk to reflect on the day. The key is intentionality. Every moment is an opportunity to live in alignment with your values, to make choices that reflect the kind of person you aspire to be. So, how do you currently spend your time? Take a moment to reflect. Are your days filled with activities that energize and fulfill you, or do they feel scattered and unfulfilling? The Stoics would challenge you to be honest with yourself. Are you investing your time in what truly matters, or are you letting it slip through your fingers? This isn't about guilt or perfection, it's about awareness. By taking stock of how you use your time, you can start making small, intentional changes that add up over time. The discipline of time, in the Stoic sense, isn't about rigid schedules or relentless productivity. It's about mindfulness, about recognizing the preciousness of each moment and choosing to spend it wisely. Every day is a gift, and how we use it shapes not just our lives, but our legacy. So, as Seneca reminds us, the question isn't whether we have enough time. It's whether we're making the most of the time we have, and that's a choice only you can make. How do your relationships shape your ability to stay disciplined? It's a question worth asking, because the Stoics believed that the people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on our character and growth. For them, self-discipline wasn't just an individual pursuit. It was deeply connected to the communities we build and the relationships we nurture. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most renowned figures, put it this way: "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." In other words, our well-being is tied to the well-being of those around us. If we want to live with discipline and virtue, we must also consider the health of our social circles and the influence they have on us. The Stoics placed a high value on virtuous friendships, relationships built on mutual respect, shared values, and a commitment to growth. They saw these connections not as distractions from self-discipline, but as essential supports for it. Think about it. When you're surrounded by people who encourage you to be your best self, who challenge you to act with integrity and kindness, it becomes easier to stay aligned with your values. These relationships act as mirrors, reflecting back to us both our strengths and areas where we can improve. They remind us that self-discipline isn't just about personal achievement. It's about contributing to the greater good and fostering a sense of shared purpose. Let's take an example. Imagine you're trying to cultivate healthier habits like exercising regularly or eating mindfully. Now picture two scenarios. In the first, your friends constantly invite you to skip workouts in favor of late-night fast food. In the second, your social circle encourages you to join them for morning runs or shares healthy recipes. Which environment do you think would make it easier to stay disciplined? The Stoics would argue that the second scenario isn't just more supportive, it's also more aligned with living a virtuous life. By surrounding yourself with people who inspire and challenge you, you create a fertile ground for growth and self-mastery. But virtuous friendships aren't just about external support, they're also about accountability. When we're part of a community that values honesty, courage, and wisdom, we're more likely to hold ourselves to those same standards. It's harder to cut corners or act impulsively when we know our actions will affect not just ourselves, but the people we care about. This sense of responsibility can be a powerful motivator, pushing us to act with greater intention and integrity. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the health of the whole depends on the health of each individual. When we strive to be our best selves, we contribute to the well-being of the entire community. So, take a moment to reflect on your own social circles. Are the people in your life helping you grow, or are they pulling you away from your values? Do they inspire you to act with discipline and virtue, or do they tempt you to take the easy way out? This isn't about judging others, it's about being intentional about the relationships you cultivate. Because, as the Stoics teach us, the company we keep shapes not just our actions but our character. And in the end, a life of self-discipline is not a solitary journey, it's one we walk together, supported by the strength of our connections. The Stoics remind us that we're not meant to navigate life alone. Our relationships, when rooted in virtue, become a source of strength, guidance, and inspiration. They help us stay grounded in our values even when the world feels chaotic. So, as you continue your journey towards self-discipline, consider the role your community plays. Are you nurturing relationships that uplift and challenge you? Are you contributing to the well-being of the swarm as Marcus Aurelius described? Because in the end, the people we choose to surround ourselves with don't just shape our lives, they help define who we become. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's a concept the Stoics held in high regard, not as a rejection of abundance, but as a way to focus on what truly matters. In a world that constantly pushes us to accumulate more possessions, more commitments, more distractions, simplicity becomes a radical act of discipline. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical voices, put it this way: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. At its core, simplicity is about clarity. It's about stripping away the noise so we can hear our own inner voice, the one that guides us toward what's truly meaningful. Think about it. How often do we clutter our lives, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally? Maybe it's a home filled with things we don't use, a schedule packed with obligations we don't enjoy, or a mind racing with worries about things we can't control. The Stoics believed that this clutter distracts us from our highest purpose, pulling us away from the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By simplifying, we create space to focus on what aligns with our values, to act with intention rather than being swept along by external pressures. Let's take decluttering as an example. Imagine you're standing in a room filled with items you haven't used in years, old clothes, forgotten gadgets, stacks of papers. Each of these objects carries a weight, not just physically but mentally. They represent decisions you haven't made, attachments you haven't released. Now, picture that same room after you've cleared it out. The space feels lighter, more open, more peaceful. This isn't just about tidying up, it's about creating an environment that supports clarity and focus. The same principle applies to other areas of life. When we simplify our schedules, our commitments, even our digital lives, we free up mental and emotional energy to invest in what truly matters. But simplicity isn't just about removing things, it's about prioritizing what's essential. The Stoics understood that by reducing our wants, we increase our freedom. When we're not constantly chasing the next thing, whether it's a new purchase, a promotion, or social validation, we're able to live with greater contentment and purpose. This doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals or aspirations. It means we choose them carefully, ensuring they align with our values rather than being driven by external pressures or fleeting desires. So, how can you start embracing simplicity in your own life? Begin by identifying one area where you feel overwhelmed or distracted. Maybe it's your physical space, your schedule, or even your digital habits. Take small steps to simplify. Declutter a drawer, cancel a commitment that no longer serves you, or set boundaries around your screen time. Notice how these changes affect your focus, your energy, and your sense of peace. Over time, simplicity becomes not just a habit, but a way of life, a deliberate choice to live with less so you can focus on what truly matters. The discipline of simplicity is about more than just tidying up. It's about creating a life that reflects your deepest values. It's about choosing clarity over clutter, intention over impulse, and freedom over excess. As Epictetus reminds us, true wealth isn't found in what we own, but in the space we create to live with purpose. So, what's one thing you could let go of today to make room for what truly matters? The answer might just change the way you see everything. How do you handle delays or setbacks? It's a question worth pondering because in a world that often feels rushed and impatient, the ability to wait gracefully is a rare and powerful skill. The Stoics saw patience not as passive waiting, but as an active form of self-discipline, a way to build resilience, maintain inner peace, and stay aligned with your values, even when life doesn't go as planned. Marcus Aurelius, who faced countless challenges as both a philosopher and an emperor, put it this way: "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." In other words, life isn't always smooth or predictable. It's full of obstacles, delays, and unexpected turns, and the way we respond to these challenges, with patience or frustration, shapes not just the outcome, but who we become in the process. Think about it: when you're stuck in traffic or waiting for a promotion that feels endlessly delayed, it's easy to let frustration take over. You might feel like time is slipping away or that your efforts aren't being recognized. But the Stoics would encourage you to see these moments differently. Instead of resisting the delay, what if you accepted it as an opportunity to practice patience? What if you used that time to reflect, to prepare, or simply to breathe? This shift in mindset doesn't just make the wait more bearable, it transforms it into a chance to strengthen your character and deepen your resilience. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you've been working toward a promotion at work. You've put in the hours, gone above and beyond, and yet the opportunity hasn't come. It's natural to feel impatient, even discouraged, but the Stoic approach would be to ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? You can't force the promotion to happen faster, but you can continue to improve your skills, build stronger relationships, and maintain your focus. By directing your energy toward what's within your control, you're not just waiting, you're growing. And when the opportunity finally comes, you'll be even more prepared to step into it with confidence. Patience in the Stoic sense isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about staying engaged while letting go of the need for immediate results. It's about trusting the process even when the outcome is uncertain. This kind of patience builds inner strength because it teaches us to endure discomfort without losing sight of our goals. It reminds us that delays and setbacks aren't roadblocks, they're part of the journey. They test our commitment, sharpen our focus, and ultimately make the achievement more meaningful. So, where in your life could you practice more patience? Maybe it's in your career where progress feels slow. Maybe it's in a relationship where understanding takes time. Or maybe it's in something as simple as waiting for a package or standing in line. Each of these moments is an invitation to pause, to reflect, and to choose how you respond. Will you let frustration take over, or will you use the wait as an opportunity to strengthen your discipline and deepen your peace? The Stoics remind us that patience isn't just a virtue, it's a skill. And like any skill, it grows stronger with practice. The more you cultivate patience, the more resilient you become, not just in the face of delays, but in the face of life itself. Because as Marcus Aurelius teaches us, the art of living isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about meeting them with grace, strength, and an unwavering commitment to what matters most. The mind is a muscle that grows stronger with use. This idea lies at the heart of the Stoic commitment to lifelong learning, a commitment that goes far beyond acquiring knowledge for its own sake. For the Stoics, learning wasn't just about filling your head with facts. It was about sharpening your ability to think clearly, act wisely, and live with purpose. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it this way: "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." These words remind us that growth isn't a destination. It's a journey, one that requires curiosity, humility, and an unwavering dedication to self-improvement. Think about it. How often do we settle into routines, sticking to what we already know because it feels safe or familiar? It's easy to fall into the trap of intellectual stagnation, especially in a world that often prioritizes speed over depth. But the Stoics saw learning as an essential discipline, a way to keep the mind agile and the spirit vibrant. Whether it's studying philosophy, exploring a new skill, or simply seeking to understand a different perspective, every act of learning strengthens our ability to navigate life's complexities with clarity and grace. Let's take philosophy as an example. Reading the works of thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, or Seneca isn't just an academic exercise. It's a way to engage with timeless questions about how to live a good life, how to handle adversity, and how to cultivate inner peace. These texts challenge us to reflect on our own choices, to question our assumptions, and to strive for a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. But philosophy isn't the only path. Learning can take many forms, whether it's mastering a new language, delving into history, or even picking up a musical instrument. The key is to approach it with intention, to see each lesson as an opportunity to grow. So, what does continuous learning have to do with self-discipline? Quite a lot, actually. When you commit to learning, you're exercising your ability to focus, to persevere, and to embrace discomfort. Think about the last time you tackled something new, maybe a challenging book or a complex project. It likely required patience, effort, and a willingness to make mistakes. These are the same qualities that build discipline. Every time you push through a difficult concept or overcome a learning curve, you're not just expanding your knowledge, you're strengthening your capacity to stay committed, even when the path gets tough. Consider your own learning habits. Are you actively seeking out opportunities to grow, or have you let curiosity take a backseat to convenience? The Stoics would encourage you to make learning a daily practice, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. It's through this practice that we develop the wisdom to see clearly, the courage to face uncertainty, and the resilience to keep moving forward, no matter what life throws our way. The discipline of learning isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up day after day with an open mind and a willingness to engage with the world in all its complexity. As Seneca reminds us, life itself is the ultimate classroom, and every moment is an opportunity to grow. So, what will you learn today? The answer might just shape the person you become tomorrow. How does humility shape your self-discipline? It's a question that might not come up often, but for the Stoics, humility was a cornerstone of personal growth and self-mastery. They saw it not as a weakness, but as a source of strength, a way to remain open to learning, to admit mistakes, and to stay grounded in the face of success or failure. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most practical teachers, put it bluntly: "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." These words cut to the heart of humility. It's about recognizing that no matter how much we achieve or how skilled we become, there's always room to grow. And that openness, that willingness to learn, is what keeps us disciplined and focused on progress. Humility, in the Stoic sense, isn't about downplaying your abilities or shrinking from challenges. It's about maintaining a clear-eyed perspective on your strengths and weaknesses. Think about it. When you believe you already have all the answers, you stop asking questions. You stop seeking feedback, stop pushing yourself to improve, and risk becoming complacent. But when you approach life with humility, you create space for curiosity and growth. You become more teachable, more adaptable, and more resilient. It's a mindset that not only fuels self-discipline, but also guards against the pitfalls of arrogance and overconfidence. Let's take the example of receiving feedback. Imagine you've just completed a project at work, and a colleague points out areas where you could have done better. If you lack humility, you might dismiss their comments, convinced you've already done your best. But if you approach the situation with a humble mindset, you're more likely to listen, reflect, and consider how you can improve. This doesn't mean you have to agree with every critique, but it does mean staying open to the possibility that there's always something new to learn. This kind of humility isn't just good for your growth, it's also a sign of strength, showing that you're secure enough to acknowledge your imperfections and committed enough to work on them. The Stoics believed that humility was especially important in moments of success. When things are going well, it's easy to let pride take over, to think you've earned your achievements entirely on your own. But humility reminds us that no one succeeds in a vacuum. It encourages gratitude for the support we've received and recognition of the role luck or circumstance may have played. This balanced perspective keeps us grounded and focused on what truly matters, not external validation, but the continuous effort to live with integrity and purpose. So, how can you cultivate humility in your own life? Start by reflecting on where you might be holding onto a sense of superiority or resistance to feedback. Are there areas where you've convinced yourself you already know enough? The Stoics would challenge you to let go of that mindset and embrace the discomfort of not knowing. Seek out opportunities to learn from others, whether it's through mentorship, collaboration, or simply listening more deeply in conversations. And when you make a mistake, don't shy away from it, own it, learn from it, and let it guide you toward better choices in the future. Humility isn't about diminishing yourself, it's about expanding your capacity to grow. It's a reminder that self-discipline isn't just about achieving goals, it's about staying curious, staying open, and staying committed to the lifelong journey of becoming your best self. So, the next time you're faced with feedback or confronted with a challenge, ask yourself, am I approaching this with humility? Because, as Epictetus reminds us, true wisdom begins when we admit how much we still have to learn. Holding on too tightly often leads to suffering. It's a truth the Stoics understood deeply, and one that remains just as relevant today. In a world that constantly demands control over our careers, our relationships, even our own emotions, learning to let go can feel counterintuitive. But the Stoics saw letting go not as a sign of weakness but as an act of strength. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." These words remind us that life is inherently unpredictable, and our peace of mind depends not on controlling every outcome, but on how we choose to respond to what we cannot control. Think about it. How much of your energy is spent clinging to things that are ultimately beyond your grasp? Maybe it's a job you've outgrown but are afraid to leave, a relationship that's run its course, or even a goal that no longer aligns with your values. The Stoics would argue that this attachment doesn't just drain your emotional reserves, it also keeps you from fully embracing the present moment. Letting go isn't about giving up, it's about freeing yourself to move forward with clarity and purpose. It's about recognizing that some things are not meant to be controlled, and that true discipline lies in releasing what no longer serves you. Let's take the example of a relationship that's come to an end. It's natural to feel sadness, regret, or even anger when something meaningful comes to a close. but holding on to what's already gone, replaying the past, wishing things were different, only prolongs the pain. The Stoic approach would be to accept the reality of the situation, to honor the time you had together, and to focus on what you can learn from the experience. By letting go, you're not erasing the relationship, you're making space for new growth, new connections, and a deeper understanding of yourself. This practice of letting go extends far beyond relationships. It applies to any situation where you find yourself clinging to an outcome, whether it's a promotion you didn't get, a project that didn't go as planned, or even a personal expectation that's no longer realistic. The Stoics believed that by releasing our attachment to these outcomes, we cultivate inner freedom. We stop being prisoners of our own desires and start living with a sense of openness and possibility. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring or striving. It means you stop letting external results dictate your happiness. So, what do you need to release? Take a moment to reflect. Is there something you've been holding on to? A belief, a goal, a relationship that's no longer serving you? What would it feel like to loosen your grip, to trust that life will unfold as it should, even if it doesn't follow the script you've written? Letting go isn't about passivity. It's about embracing the flow of life with courage and grace. It's about recognizing that while you can't control everything, you can always choose how you respond. The discipline of letting go is ultimately about trust in yourself, in your ability to adapt, and in the inherent wisdom of life itself. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, change is the only constant. By learning to release what's beyond your control, you're not just practicing self-discipline, you're opening yourself to a life of greater peace, freedom, and possibility. And that, in the end, is where true strength lies. As we come to the end of this exploration of self-discipline through the lens of Stoic wisdom, let's take a moment to reflect on the key principles we've uncovered. At its core, self-discipline isn't about rigid rules or harsh self-denial. It's about cultivating the mental resilience to face life's challenges with clarity and purpose. We've seen how cognitive control allows us to pause before reacting, giving us the space to respond with intention rather than impulse. We've explored the role of resilience, learning to see obstacles not as barriers but as opportunities for growth. And we've touched on the power of presence, the ability to fully engage with the here and now, freeing ourselves from the distractions of past regrets and future anxieties. Together, these principles form the foundation of a life rooted in self-discipline and ultimately in lasting happiness. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes not from external achievements but from mastering our own mind. As Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." These words remind us that the challenges we face are rarely as insurmountable as they seem. What holds us back isn't the difficulty itself, but our hesitation to confront it. When we dare to act with discipline, when we choose to focus on what we can control, to respond with wisdom rather than emotion, and to stay present in the face of uncertainty, we unlock a profound sense of inner strength and peace. Now, it's your turn to take these ideas and make them your own. How can you apply Stoic wisdom in your daily life? Maybe it's by pausing before reacting in a heated moment, or by embracing a challenge as an opportunity to grow. Perhaps it's by practicing gratitude for what you have, or by letting go of what you can't control. Whatever your starting point, remember that self-discipline is a journey, not a destination. Every small step you take, every moment of clarity, every act of courage, brings you closer to the kind of life the Stoics envisioned, one of purpose, resilience, and deep, enduring happiness. If you found value in this exploration of Stoic principles, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments how you plan to apply these ideas in your own life, or what challenges you're working to overcome. And if you're hungry for more insights like these, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Together, we can continue this journey toward greater self-discipline, inner peace, and a life well lived. Thank you for joining me, and remember, the power to transform your life lies within you. It's time to dare.